Hello, Steve Arts 89. Well, Neighbours has been cancelled again, a second time in 2 years. Now, Neighbours is an Australian show, but it is too expensive to be financed just by the Australian networks and all that. So what's been happening, because it's a big hit in the UK, and always has been, they were co-financing with some British company to have it on air over there. And unfortunately, when the Brexit mentality came in and they just started taking funding away from anything that wasn't, white and British, Australia didn't really look interesting to them. They're like, no, it's not British. They may be white people, but it's not British, so we can't fund them. It has to be a British show, because they've just got into the separationist, isolationist mentality with the whole Brexit thing, and it was just a political thing. So it's not that the show wasn't doing well and they weren't making money, but politically it got cut. So the network gave up and they just assumed they weren't going to find financing anywhere, and they planned out the end of the series, and they made this big final episode that everyone in Australia watched, and they had the original actors came back. They had Kylie Minogue come back. She said one line because that's all they could afford to pay her for. And Jason Donovan and everyone. It was great. And then news came that Freeview, I think it was, they were going to pay to keep the series on the air because they were going to make money obviously showing it because the show was successful. And that worked for 2 years. And we got 2 more seasons. But for some reason, even though the show was rating well, and I think they even got an Emmy nomination as Best TV Daytime Drama, they've walked away and they've pulled the financing. And without the foreign financing, we can't afford to keep the show going because the Australian audience is not big enough at home to keep the show afloat. We need the foreign audiences and the money. So it's been cancelled again. And this time, it seems to be... the first time it happened, they thought it was final, and it wasn't. They got 2 more years. But they seem to be acting like, okay, we had another option of a streaming service coming in and paying for it. I'm thinking streaming service as far as what you pay for subscriptions, whereas that wasn't. But we had that option. We used that. We had that card. We used that. We probably don't have any other cards to play, and it's over. So it's a fairly grim feeling at the moment, whereas I think before there was a bit of shock and hope that we could just work out the financing, because it wasn't that it wasn't successful, and same thing, it's not that it's not successful, it's not popular, it's not that people don't like it. I don't know why Freeview is stepping away from it, but they are. So without their funding, we can't afford to pay for it. So if someone else doesn't step in, it's going to stay cancelled. But at least it got to 40 years, because it was cancelled after 47 or 48 years, and it nearly got to 40 years. So now it's been going for 40 years. So that's good. But yeah, it looks like it might be over. And it's sad. And the other sad thing is this final is not going to be like the other final. It's just going to, whatever story, it's just going to end off. I don't know if they're actually going to give it a proper conclusion, because apparently they had some idea that it was coming, so they may give it an actual proper ending, but it might have some loose threads. It might be a little bit open-ended, might be a few cliffhangers. It's unclear, but I don't think they're going to do the same sort of big ending again for this actual ending. And it's going to be weird if you're watching the show, you get to like season 37, 38, and you have this big ending, and then it comes back the next year, it goes on for 2 years, and then just stops. It'll be really weird to view it that way. But it's sad. But we've got 2 more years, it's an institution. We should keep it going. I just don't know how to do that, and that's the problem with when you rely on other people, and when your production gets too big, for example, and you rely on other people to fund it, so it can be distributed internationally and all that. If any of that falls apart, you can't support it on your own, in your own sort of network or whatever. So yeah, it's a problem. You go bigger, and sometimes you get a bigger audience, you become, a bigger thing, but it also means you become too big to manage it yourself. So that's what's happened with this little Australian show. It got too big, and we need other people to help us. And unless we get someone stepping back in, And this often happens where someone will step away for some reason and someone else will look at it and be like, well, we'd like to have that show and that money and that success, so why don't we just step in? And it's saved them before, could happen again, who knows, we'll see. But Home and Away is just feeling a bit too smug at the moment, so yeah, but their time's probably coming soon. But I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. I think the literal Summer Bay, the beach, is sort of keeping that show afloat because it's more iconic for Australia than just a neighbourhood like Erinsborough. So I think that's the difference. That's why Home and Away is still plugging along. But we'll see. We'll see. Time marches on.